June bleep, where have you been? I'm sorry, okay, senior year has been... I've been threatened with a defamation lawsuit. I became a YouTuber. I went to the psych ward. I became a Lex Pro zombie. My hair went pink. I lost like 90% of my friends. It's been an experience for sure. But wait, June, aren't these highly personal and scary experiences that you're humorizing to cope with the impact that they've had on you so you can entail some sort of cathartic life advice for all your viewers? You nailed it. Welcome to my channel. Quick little backstory for those unaware. This is Little June. Little June was drop dead obsessed with Minecraft. From the Pocket Edition beta version to begging for a desktop account to investing thousands of hours into this game on Hypixel and SMPs, Minecraft has been the never-ending motif of my life. My Minecraft online life began to die out as I progressed through high school and I forced myself to get involved in school. But I've always been a little bit controversial and I would always get overly passionate about things I felt were wrong, and becoming more involved with the school only made me more aware of the injustices that occurred on my campus between students, faculty, and administration. I think my school simply didn't like my niche esotericism and the radicality that came with my character, but hey, 7th grade me used to think that radical was just a longer way to say that's rad. So like, of course, this suppression of my character didn't translate into perspective at the time, but instead, it made me feel that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. I had two options to prove myself to the world: become unfathomably, insurmountably cool and celebrated and successful to show these people what they tried to hold down, or, you know, die to prove the deep trauma sewn into the adrenaline coursing throughout my body. A thrilling dichotomy, really. Kinda seemed like the latter option was the easier of the two. But here on the June Bleep channel, we gotta focus on growth. I have two pieces that dive deeper into the senior year depressive backstory if you're curious, an elaborately, vaguely written 3,000 word personal essay on how I was planning my death, alongside an arguably, slightly, potentially, partially hypothetically more positive approach on my channel titled You Are Where You Need to Be Right Now. How did I break out of the trenches, you may ask? My relationship with education had been absolutely skewed. Duh, I wanted to sue my school. But I also wasn't about to give up on my entire future on the off chance that I did happen to eventually choose life. As I experienced my depression, I found that it was incredibly hard to not indulge in the small things, anything that could bring me solace. More specifically, I found solace in Minecraft and content creation. For me, I turned the idea of starting a YouTube channel as a way to actually bring me some sense of motivation to nail the assignments I still had to graduate. My English teacher entailed an assignment for us where we had to develop a skill over the entire year that would aid us in our lives beyond just high school, and at the end of the year, we would present our improvement and findings. I chose to focus on content creation, a skill I've been wanting to pursue for years, but never having quite found the motivation or right vibe and mentality to get started. I discovered that there was no right mentality to get started on anything and decided to hit start streaming one night on Twitch while playing with my friend. Every night, I would compile my findings on how to improve from the information I had learned from the day. However, motivation had been slipping constantly, and I struggled to be able to feel like curating a community was within my reach. Most of my early content didn't have a super clear objective, just created whatever I felt that I wanted to express. I didn't quite lock in until February or March, where I strung together just enough motivation to focus on being intentional with what I wanted to create. Additionally, it was right after the whole Tommy versus Dream feud. Ironically enough, this made me grasp how the Minecraft community was still there, and I've always been a pretty big fan of Tommy. The shift of his content towards a more cathartic approach resonated with me, and it was really helpful to see a figure from such a significant part of my life continue to choose integrity. I popped into one of his streams on a day I happened to skip school, and I asked the question,
how do you not get burnt out if your vision isn't visioning? You're like creatively. Don't know, sleep on it, man. You know, a lot of the answers are just dead simple.
I slept on it, and the results paid off greatly. I drafted a solid plan. Trying to get anywhere by being someone other than myself proved to be exhausting. It was a straight recipe to burnout. I knew I had foundational skills that I could hone in on, writing and editing in particular. I storyboarded my first major video, You Are Where You Need to Be Right Now, where I utilized my newfound perspective and gave a summed up history of my senior year struggles. The video jumped to around 500 views, high for my standards at the time, and the audience reception stuck with me extremely deeply. From feeling so numb to feeling everything so deeply, I was able to grasp the intoxicating feeling of being able to reach other people, being able to resonate with them. This is what I want to hone in on. This is what I want to achieve with my creation. In my content, I invoke emotion in tandem with Minecraft. I found that it is an easily accessible medium and incorporates my greatest hobby into what I create. So I use this idea in order to motivate myself to actually complete the work given in my classes. At this time, I was given another assignment in English, onto the next trick up my sleeve, video essays, or something adjacent to them. These 4 videos on my channel, bam! I didn't make them for you. I made them as part of an assignment in my English class, where we essentially had to entail 6 episodes of podcasts, because anyone is able to make a podcast these days. I didn't make empathy shortage reviews. I did it for a grade. This video about consumers or whatever and aggregate demand and foreign investment secretly actually my AP Econ final project, a class that I would have failed otherwise. Even my Minecraft TikTok started blowing up and numbers were rushing in at a rate I could never have even fathomed. This only meant I could include more cool stuff in my final English presentation. I shared my progress with the class in a milder slideshow form of this video and was met with resounding applause for all that I had worked towards. What mattered was that I harnessed this newfound passion in a manner that would help me graduate high school. This is what could help me prove that I wasn't the bad student. The failure of a teenager that I had internalized I had become by the watchful gazes of all the teachers and peers around me. Then I graduated and end of story. High school done, video over, point of the video passed, growth achieved. But why can't I shake off this feeling that I am still nothing? Why can't I shake off the feeling that I will amount to nothing? Where did I go wrong? How could I not be happy? What did I do wrong? Is it me? Me? Do I deserve Am I nothing more than what they think I feel like this forever? To feel like this forever? Am I meant to feel this way forever? As graduation creeped up on me, I continued to be reminded of the fact that despite all the progress I'd made, that I tirelessly worked on to improve myself and to escape from my encroaching circumstances, I could never feel like I was enough. My deep depression had been spurred and consistently perpetuated through my experiences that continually reiterated and reinforced the idea that I have no control over the injustices inflicted upon me and other uncontrolling individuals in our society. A little bit after my videos had blown up and things were looking extremely up for me, I struggled to continue putting out content. The demands of my trauma overtook the demands of my passions. On May 20th, I started scripting out this graduation video, but 14 days before graduation, and I keep circling back to the same motif that I am nothing. I will amount to nothing. I don't have it in me to pass my classes. I don't deserve to get out of this place. I am nothing more than the trauma that defines me and the tears that I've sowed into the concrete on this campus.
Capitalism has skewed our perspective on how our life should look.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
This year hasn't been very easy. I did relapse. I think we tend to forget that. There's no deadline on when you have to get better. I don't ever have to go back to high school again. I did a little speech and drama. Just that idea of making people be able to feel and to help people really grounded me. It solidified me back into knowing that just speaking out of my heart helps people, you know? Let's look back at this video in a few months and see how far I've come from here.
Stop, this is freaking me. Ah! You're real! You're real! I'm in your car? How are you?
Done with school forever. My graduation wallet pictures came in recently. I just started crying when I looked at them because I'm so close. The first thing I thought when I looked at them when they arrived was, I'm not even gonna be around to hand these out to people. It's the day of graduation and I just still feel really terrible. It's just tiring. I keep saying that, every single negative feeling or experience is just gonna result in me just getting a really good clip. Why filter my experience so that it can be consumed by others, It's just tiring, this sense of performance. We're gonna go line up now. Show me that. Yeah. On the day of graduation, my mood had already been going down going into the ceremony. I could only think about how I was supposed to graduate at the front of the class before other circumstances took over. But, I have a bit of an ego. You know what? How can I make this graduation about me? How can I make it something slightly cathartic and symbolic and slightly off-putting? So I waited all the way to be the last person to walk in so that I could symbolically be the last person to walk the stage and have my name called. If I couldn't be at the front, it didn't work out. They ran out of seats, and ironically, I almost got moved up to the front. I never was able to experience the sense of relief that I've been waiting for endlessly, even on the day of graduation. In fact, I'd honestly started crying on the graduation floor as people started to get their names called. However, once my row got up, I did what I did best. Start spinning in circles, apparently. And for whatever reason, my mood was just fine. I was able to just be bizarre in front of everyone. You know, I coasted throughout the rest of the ceremony, and after that was done, I was able to spend the entire next week with my best friend. No worries about the stresses of high school, the guys-full watches of teachers and peers, just feeling free that the world was perhaps bigger than I believed.
See your little call? Do that again. 1, 2, 3. So we're gonna go like this. Oh, we're gonna call her. You text me. You text me when you.
Depression isn't something that has some magical cure to it. It constantly feels like I've exhausted all my options, and that if I can't stop feeling like this, then maybe I deserve to. Depression skews our perspectives on our lives, and it amplifies our black and white thinking. Every time I talk about my depression, I regard the same thing. I don't have an answer as to how I overcame it. In fact, I still definitely haven't overcome it. I constantly am second-guessing myself, everything I've done in my life, and I'm definitely second-guessing every minute aspect of this video as I'm making it. However, as I look back over my old videos, I'm reminded of the reason I'm so proud of them at all. My videos are my craft. They are the extension of who I am. I simply write and write and write, and exactly what feels right and what comes naturally to me. Around March, I discovered the rewarding feeling of toasting and cooking up an egg and cheese bagel and not spending $10 for the same sandwich at a shop. I would realize each time that I needed to slow down in order to make a bagel that would make me feel the most fulfilled. And I would come to the same analogy that I would repeat every time I turned on my stove. Don't compromise on the egg because you're worried about the bagel toasting too fast. To finish the rest of my plan for this video, I followed that principle, not compromising on the quality of the storytelling I was sharing if I weren't worrying too much about the opportunity passing me by. After all, bagels can be reheated, and the meal will be okay, just as long as the bagel is still crispy, of course. In the background, I opened up a video of what made me feel the most safe: Minecraft music. The slow tunes that brought me solace in the fast-paced world that kept making me feel as if I were constantly playing catch-up. I've been feeling as though I need to come to some sort of grand conclusion about my experiences, my depression, and to act as if it's something I've moved past and achieved a higher level of understanding about. I keep talking about it in past tense, even though it's been at the forefront of everything on my mind for who knows how long. Conversations about mental health often harmfully push the idea that anything less than recovery is reprehensible. Alternatively, I regard my mental health as a significant part of my upbringing and my identity. As I continue to struggle so deeply, I commend it as representative of my strength and endurance in making the most of the circumstances thrust upon me. For now, I am taking my days one step at a time, following the flow of whatever comes naturally to me. I want to say thank you to all of you for showing me that my voice is worth being listened to, that there is value in what I have to share and offer to this world. It strikes me so deeply that my stories can be resonated with, and it motivates me to continue creating, to continue making people feel. In the pool of the 17,000 subscribers I currently have, there are friends, there are classmates, there are people I've met through this community, and there are so many people I can't even fathom ever meeting. I remember sitting in my English class in the morning at 20 subscribers and reading comments on how I'd helped change someone's perspective on life simply with my creation. Thinking back to that moment reminds me of the idea that even if you can't change the entire world, it's enough that you're helping change even just one person's world. And now I've made an impact on more people than I can even count on like my fingers. I wonder about all the individuals watching this video and what their experiences have been like that has led them up to this very moment. Perhaps you're someone I already hold so closely to me, or perhaps this is your first impression of me if you made it this far. Perhaps you're watching this video from the exact same English class that I was in, trying to figure out what skill you want to pursue this year. Dear unspecified teacher, I am giving you permission to brag about my channel growth in your future classes. There's no easy way to end this video. There's no easy way to end this video. There is no easy way to end this video. Capitalism has skewed our perspective. I said that many minutes ago. There's no easy way to end this video. Where am I going with this? There's no easy way to end this video. I keep ruminating back and forth on it, and I can't find the right answer. Sometimes we don't need to come to those grand conclusions about what we're trying to convey. Sometimes it's enough to just be heard. I think we can start with ourselves to focus on the things that we can control in the world, the things that we have an influence on in helping curate. So in that same sense, I would like to put a question on the table. What is the June Bleep identity? I hope you stick around to find out.